marvelous hello, friends and loved ones, and welcome to the 7th anniversary of my very first video. Now, for those of you that don't know how I do anniversaries on this channel, I started with Glover, and then I did a wrestling game. Then Glover, then a wrestling game, then Glover, then a wrestling game, then Glover, and that means we are back to wrestling game. However, rather than doing a WWE game, I thought this year I'd try something a little bit spicier. So, let's get ready to rumble Roses. Rumble Roses was released for the PlayStation 2 in 2004 and was developed by Yukas using the exact same engine from one of their previous games, WWE SmackDown Here Comes the Pain, which many people remember as being a pretty good game. In fact, Yukas developed a lot of great wrestling games, including a few I've talked about on this channel before, like SmackDown vs. Raw, WrestleMania 19, and even the very first wrestling game I ever really got into, SmackDown 2 Know Your Role on the PS1. Yukas developed the majority of WWE games, all the way up until the critically praised WWE 2K19. It wasn't until WWE 2K20 that the series shifted developers, and, you know, that totally worked out well for that series, right?
No.
Actually, Yukas is still making wrestling games. In fact, as of the time of making this video, they're supposedly developing the first big console game for AEW, with Fight Forever coming out sometime this year. But when it comes to Rumble Roses, let's go ahead and address the elephant in the boobs right now. Sorry, I meant the boobs in the room. Sorry, I meant the boobs in the boobs right now. Rumble Roses is a game that tries to have a lot of sex appeal. The game just looks like the thumbnail for one of those weird clickbait ads you see on random websites that are like, games you should never let your parents catch you playing! The entire playable cast is attractive, often scantily clad women, and even the back of the box says, all-female wrestling? Face it, you've always wanted this, which isn't untrue. Upon booting the game up, you can dive into an exhibition match or story mode, and the story mode is absolutely bonkers. You have the Rumble Roses tournament, sponsored by Castlevania, of course, and each of the main girls has their own reason for wanting to enter it. Reiko Hinomoto, who won the award for Best Bounce in G4's Video Game Vixen's Beauty Pageant in 2004, wants to live up to her famous wrestler mother's legacy. Dixie Clements wants to defeat Reiko. Candy Cane wants to use the prize money to save the orphanage where she grew up, and so on and so forth. It's a perfectly fine setup as far as premises go, most of the characters get a fair amount of interaction between each other, and there are a few running themes, like every character having at least one match where they bikini wrestle in a puddle of yoo-hoo. I think it's actually supposed to be mud, but come on, that is straight up yoo-hoo. No matter which character you play as, you eventually have to deal with Anesthesia, a sadistic nurse who experiments on the wrestlers and uses their bodies or their fight data or something to create powerful weapons of mass destruction, in the form of uptight-looking girl boss robots named Lady X. Yeah, it gets a little ridiculous, but it's always in a super hilarious, low-budget film sort of way that's perfectly complemented by the cheesy voice acting.
Huh? Evil Rose. I know this girl. Huh? Her name is Reiko. Go home, Reiko. Ah!
Wait! Why should you give a damn about me? It can't be.
No!
Like that girl I mentioned earlier, Candy Cane, her rival character is her teacher, Miss Spencer, who entered the tournament specifically to drag her back to school. I'm not sure if multiple submission holds falls within the realm of proper action towards truancy. Like I said, the story is fun but ridiculous. Of course, I do have to take a few points away from it due to some incredibly noticeable errors in continuity.
Cowgirl have magnificent teats.
Huh? Are you jealous, sweetie?
But my sheep have more magnificent teats. Huh?
What?
Cowgirl has teats more magnificent than my sheep.
Well, which is it, Eigel? Are Dixie's teats more or less magnificent than your sheep's? That's just sloppy storytelling right there. The plot in general is harmless enough, and it's honestly kinda tough to be too harsh on it, because when you beat the game with any character, you're treated to this surprisingly heartfelt letter from one of the game's producers, just talking about how excited they were to create this world and how much they hope we enjoyed it. And you know what? I did. It's kooky, it's ridiculous, I wouldn't say it's particularly sexy, but it's pleasing enough, and yeah, I had a pretty good time. Speaking of beating the game with any character, that brings me to Rumble Rose's main gimmick that I actually really like. You may have noticed when you first click story mode that there are a lot of unavailable characters. This is because the 10 main characters of Rumble Roses are actually 20 different fighters. See, every character has a face and a heel version of themselves, and when you beat a character's story mode, you unlock their other self. The leather-clad devil heel, Evil Rose, becomes the valiant wrestler of justice, Noble Rose. The innocent judo champion, Makoto, becomes the win-at-all-costs black belt demon. And the punk rock schoolgirl, Rebecca Candy Cane Welsh, that the game goes out of its way to confirm is technically an adult, becomes the peppy blonde cheerleader, Becky. I do truly like this concept, and yeah, look, when you've got 20 takes on these 10 women, at least one of them is probably going to be your type as far as fighters or fetishes go. Everybody's secondary self also has their own story mode, meaning there are 20 to go through. But these alternate stories are all noticeably shorter and really lacking in the cutscene and character interaction departments. They're more just a fun bonus than a fleshed out story. Beating all 20 story modes unlocks the final boss, Lady X, and Lady X Substance in Exhibition mode, who basically seem like the same character, but I guess they wanted to keep the heel and face thing for them too, I suppose. Something you might notice with Exhibition mode is that even after unlocking a character's heel or face self, you can't select them both. See, during Exhibition matches, you have the opportunity to set vows for your character. These are specific goals for you to accomplish throughout the match, like don't use any weapons, or don't leave the ring, that affect your character's heel or face rating. Focusing on one type of vow shifts the character's alignment in that direction, allowing that version of the character to become playable in exchange for losing access to the other one. This is really stupid, and essentially means no matter what you do, you'll always only have half the roster unlocked for Exhibition mode at a time. If you get a character all the way heel or all the way face, you do unlock a battle against the champion. And this unlocks the character you're playing as in the gallery mode, where you're free to look at them, which is nice. As far as Rumble Rose's gameplay goes, it's a wrestling game, and if you've played any of Yuka's other games, a lot of this is gonna seem pretty familiar. You've got strikes, grapples, Irish whips, counters, submission holds, pins, and super moves. One relatively unique aspect of Rumble Roses is the humiliation system. See, certain moves are just embarrassing to your opponent, and if you fill this meter up, they just become super embarrassed, allowing you to turn your special move into a humiliation move, which is typically just a really powerful submission hold, and they honestly aren't really all that exciting. But speaking of submissions, I definitely found those to be the dominant strategy in this game. If you use the same submission move enough, some fights are over in less than a minute. Even the final boss, with her super crazy moves and her shooting me in the face and pinning me like a total jerk, was no match for my incredible strategy of spamming the crap out of left triangle. Or whatever move this actually was, I don't remember. Rumble Roses is a perfectly fine little wrestling game, and I truly like having this style of gameplay with a more fighting game-esque roster of fictional characters rather than established WWE superstars. I do think its biggest problem is how bare bones it is in terms of gameplay options. There's no tag team mode, there are no cage matches, and if they were going to try and sell this game on its sex appeal, you'd think there'd be some bra and panty matches, or something beyond the dips in the yoo-hoo pool, or the ooh ooh, I'm so ashamed mechanic. Truthfully, after beating the story mode and maybe doing a handful of championship matches in Exhibition, you probably won't stick with this game for much longer than that. I certainly didn't. Rumble Roses did eventually get a sequel on the Xbox 360 called Rumble Roses XX, which is actually the only one of the two I'd ever played prior to working on this video. I remember that game had a bit more to offer in terms of gameplay options and costumes and stuff, but it completely removed any semblance of a story mode, which I think was its biggest downfall, as the ridiculous story was one of this game's main appeals. And I think that's really all I have to say about Rumble Roses. I still cannot believe I've been doing this for 7 years. Now, I considered sitting in front of this camera and delivering a heartfelt speech thanking each and every one of you for supporting me these past 7 years, whether you've been watching from the very beginning or this is your first video, but I figured rather than doing that, I will take a page from the book of Rumble Roses and just give you all a nice heartfelt letter to finish things off. So, here it is. Hey everyone, thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, be sure to click like, but if you really liked it, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. Extra special thanks to all my friends and loved ones over on Patreon, which you can pledge to today to see your own name in these ending credits. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care.